What's up, guys? Welcome back to Echoes of Experience. Um, Today we're going to talk about mental health. We talked about physical health. Today we're going to talk about mental health. Because it's a broad topic, but I feel like it's important to talk about because it feels to me like it gets overlooked a lot, and there are a lot of people out there who take mental health very seriously, and that's great. But I just feel like it gets overlooked a lot, especially for men. So we're going to talk about it. So I have a few questions for you that I want you to think about while we talk about this. How do you check your mental health? How do you check on yourself in regards to your mental health? Are you getting decompression time? What are you doing to take care of you? Meaning, what are you doing to prioritize yourself above all? And the next question was literally what I just said. Do you put yourself first? So mental health is just as important, if not even more so, than physical health. In my opinion, there's so much that translates to day-to-day life that will reflect your mental health. If you're in a really shitty mental state, there are things in your life that are going to be affected by that, depending on how you handle it. There's a difference between going through a rough time and just trying to push through and get through the day-to-day while you're going through this rough time and leaning on your support system versus everything sucks and I don't give a shit who sees, I don't give a shit who says what. There are ways to handle going through rough times, and I had to learn myself because I used to not be so good at it. You can ask anybody I went to school with. If I was having a shitty day, it was a bad day for anyone around me as well, and that's not fair. It's just not. So another question: how do you regulate your anxiety or depression if you deal with such issues? How do you self-regulate whenever those emotions get overwhelming, or how do you self-regulate to prevent those emotions getting overwhelming? Because that is going to be very important just for day-to-day life, right? Like, if you're just super anxious, for example, you're breaking down at the smallest things because you're anxious as fuck. Like, I get it, but there's a time and place for you to allow yourself to break down, because you can't always do that. As much as that sucks, that's what you have to do. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in. Nobody except you and your support system, if it's a real support system, gives a shit about your emotions. Your job doesn't care. If you own a business, your customers don't care. Nobody cares except for you and your support system. Again, if it's a good support system. So whether you have kids, a career, or both, own a business, if you, I don't know, whatever you do, self-regulation is very important. Kind of think of it like preventative maintenance, right? Like, so on your car, you have to get oil changes, tire rotations. You have to make sure your tires are aired up to the correct pressure throughout the life of the tire, right? Why wouldn't you do the same for yourself? You know what I mean? Because that goes a long way, I promise. Do what you can to lower the day-to-day stress levels before they build up into something explosive. Because once it gets to something explosive, it's a problem for everyone, and that is not where you want to be. I promise. I've been the explosive person. I used to be really angry And it did not take much to get me there. But I've done the work. I feel like I'm a lot better. I know how to keep my mouth shut when it's needed. I know how to hold back the emotion and allow myself to deal with it later, because there may be a time and place to deal with your emotions, but that doesn't mean that you should bottle them up and never deal with them. You know what I mean? Like you can't never deal with them, and sometimes you can't deal with them in the moment. You just kind of have to take a breath and get the fuck on with the day. You know what I mean? A really great way is journaling, to kind of keep track of your mental health either throughout the day or throughout the week, right? So I write poems or lyrics, whatever you want to say. There's no music attached to them. Maybe one day, but that's what I do. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm doing a workout at home or something to regulate. But the lyrics are reflective to me later of how I was feeling and how far I've come since I've felt that way. Like there have been things that I've written that are dark as fuck, and since those times I've gotten a whole lot better, just trying to do the work and make sure I'm not bottling anything up. It just, like a I'm letting the water roll off of my back like I'm a duck, right? There's an example for you. Self-reflection is also really handy. Looking inward is a great tool to figure out how you want to improve the way you operate day to day, like how you would react to certain people or certain situations, depending on the person or the situations. If it's someone who you absolutely despise interacting with, but still have to deal with that person, this is a great way to kind of keep track of how you deal with how you're feeling in that moment whenever you want to tell them to go fuck themselves or tell them to just leave you the fuck alone. And there was a fly. And deal with that before it gets to a certain point of you exploding on this person. Like that's just a little example that's very, very minute, but it is absolutely a day-to-day thing. Like for example, again, it's a small example, but I had a boss at my current job, and I hated interacting with this guy because he would always talk to people like they were lesser than him, and it absolutely drove me up the wall. And it took a lot for me not to say something to him because I had seen him do it to so many people. All of the people I work with are great people, but he would do it to everyone, and it drove me insane. I would see it on a day-to-day basis, all 5 days of the week, and it took a lot. But I don't have to deal with that anymore. That man no longer works at my job. So, again, it's a very small day-to-day kind of thing, but it's an example. You can apply stuff like that to bigger examples, like more impactful examples, if you wanted to. Like a breakup. That's a common one, right? So let's say you're at work or I don't know, let's say you're doing something important and you get broken up with. As much as it hurts, if you are currently doing something important, whether that be you're doing something for your kids or your business or your job, whatever, you have a task at hand, it is going to be better to take a breath and push that aside until you have that task completed, till you can go home, and then you can let your feelings run wild. As long as you don't do so in a destructive way. Let me throw that out there. Because if you do it in a destructive way, like punching things or hurting yourself or whatever, that doesn't help anybody, especially not you. Trust me, I have experience there too. It does help to recognize that there's a time and place, but that doesn't ever mean to bottle it up and never deal with it. Just want to reiterate. Doing a self check-in can be super handy. I just recently started doing this. I took an idea from the To Be Better podcast. They promote check-ins with like your partner in a relationship and your kids. I've never heard them talk about doing one for yourself, but we're going to go over that. So when you're doing these, you can get on a journal and write the shit down. You can get on your phone in your notes app. You can sit on the couch and just think about it, right? Ask yourself questions like, how can I handle this better? How did I handle the negative emotions I was dealing with this week? Or what did I react poorly to throughout the week? What emotions have I really been dealing with? And what that means is, if like anger is a masking emotion, right? There are a lot of emotions that we not necessarily turn, but we use anger to mask so we don't show that we're about to break the fuck down in tears, right? That is the thing. So what emotions are you really dealing with? Or I guess a better way to phrase that would be, what emotions am I really feeling, right? Am I stressing about things that are out of my control? Let me stop right there for a second. Do you know the only thing that you can control is you? That's it. You can only control yourself, your actions, your thoughts and feelings. You can control that because that is coming from you. You cannot control anything outside of you. You can't control if your job decides to let you go for whatever stupid reason, even if you're a A+ employee and you get fired. I've seen that happen. You can't control what you have influence, but you can't necessarily control what your relationship is going to look like, because the other person has to be willing to do the same shit, right? You cannot control what that's going to look like. You can't control if your car is going to break down tomorrow. You can't control if you work a blue collar job. You can't control whether or not your job is going to, like your job for the day or your service call or installation, whatever the fuck. You can't control if that's going to go well. There's so many factors outside of you that you cannot control. All you can do is control how you respond to situations. Okay? Have I been shitty in some way to people who have nothing to do with how I feel? And we're going to get into that too. If you're the kind of person, I've been guilty of this. I don't do this anymore, but I used to be really shitty with people because I was feeling a certain way and they had nothing to do with my situation. I just expected everyone to understand that I was in a shitty mood and I didn't give a fuck about anything that had to do with them. Or I expected them to understand that I was feeling a certain way without communicating that I was feeling a certain way, and get a shitty attitude with people because they didn't. Because how the fuck are they going to know if I don't tell them? And even if you do communicate your feelings in this regard, if you're trying to tell someone that you're having a shitty day, you still have to do that in a decent way. You can't just explode on somebody because they are having a normal day, they're having an okay day, they're having a great day, and they come up to you with that positive energy or the normal day-to-day, how's your day going? And you cannot be the person to explode on that person and expect them to, especially if it's continuous, you can't expect that person to keep coming and asking you, how's your day going? Because if it's a normal thing, or if it happens on numerous occasions where you explode on this person, that person's not going to want to interact with you anymore. And if they didn't do anything wrong, if they are not involved in the situation, if they didn't bring any feelings out of you, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Like there's no point to that. And I had to learn that myself, because I used to be that person who was explosive on people because I was having a really shitty fucking day, and people, even if I didn't get explosive, I was still shitty. Like I was just short. I had an attitude. I just radiated, I'm having a shitty day in every possible way you can imagine, without getting destructive most of the time. And when I say destructive, I mean like I used to punch walls or break things. Like I would be destructive. It was always inanimate objects. I didn't just, because I'm having a shitty day, go and punch someone in the face. Like that was never how I handled the situation. But regardless, I'll give you another example. Let's say you're married, you have a family, you come home from work, you had a great day at work, your wife has been at home, or you can flip it, whatever. Your partner has been at home taking care of the kids and cleaning the house, and they're having a really shitty day. You come up to them and you just want to love on them because you've had a great day. And she immediately gets an attitude with you. He gets an attitude with you. Whatever. Your partner gets an attitude with you and makes you almost feel like it's your fault that they're having a shitty day, right? But you weren't there. You haven't heard anything about the day. You don't know what happened. All you know is, oh shit, my partner is upset, right? And it's my fault. I need to fix this. But that's not the reality, because one, they didn't communicate. Two, they decided to react to you poorly coming into the house and trying to continue your good or great day with them, because that's your partner. That is the person you love. That is supposed to be your peace, right? And today they are not being any of that. They're just spitting venom at you and being an asshole. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna shut down? Are you gonna continue to try to have a conversation? Are you gonna figure out how to fix it for them? Because you can't always do that. You can do things to work together to make the day better and end well, starting with communication. But you cannot snap your fingers and do something and their attitude's fixed unless they decide that they're going to take a step back and figure out what the fuck's going on and deal with that and set aside the negative emotions and remember that you had absolutely fucking nothing to do with the day. I was the person who was giving everybody shit because I was having a shitty day. It's not fun. Because you will notice, being that person, if you are that person, you will notice people will withdraw from you more and more as you do this, especially if it's habitual, if it is a common thing. It's going to happen. Doesn't matter how often you have good moments or good days. If you are continuously that person, you're going to see people just withdraw and interact with you less. And that could be your relationship. That could be your children. Whoever. And if you do it at a job, you're probably going to get fired. Right? Which is why I'm gonna put these self check-ins out there. I might even make a fucking PDF and email it to people who need it. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But that is almost like doing preventative maintenance on your car, right? But you're doing it for your own mental health, because so much correlates with your mental health. Like your motivation. People say motivation, but we're not gonna get into that today. Your motivation to go to the gym, or to go for a walk, or to do things that you know are going to be a bit of a task to do, right? Like cleaning, laundry, cooking, whatever. Mental health directly correlates with your motivation to do these things. And a lot of people will be feeling really fucking shitty and decide not to do any of this, to do your basic day-to-day tasks, or even if it's not day-to-day, you're once a week, or whatever. Mundane tasks people will end up not doing because they're having a shitty week. Which is understandable, but also you can't fucking do that. You have to be the person, especially for people who have no one to ground them, or don't feel like they can talk to anybody. You have to be the one to ground yourself and remember that no one's gonna fucking do it for you. This works for me. If I'm having a shitty week and I don't want to do anything, even if it's basic ass cleaning, I will kind of talk shit to myself to make myself do it, because me talking shit to me motivates the fuck out of me, and then my discipline kicks in, and we just that's how we get shit done, right? So if your brain works anything like mine, that might work for you. But focus on the preventative maintenance so you don't have to deal with a repair. Does that make sense? Do the oil change so your engine doesn't lock up. Or I can't think of another example right now. There are plenty of other ones. Plenty, but I can't think of any right now. So that's all I got for that one. I hope this helps someone. If it does, I'd love to hear about it. If you want a document of a self check-in, I'll make that after posting this video, and I'll email it to you. You have to email me so I know that you want it, and I'll send it off to you. Because I feel like that could be helpful, and maybe I'll make changes to it later on and just send you an update. The more I think about this. So that's all I got for that one. I will be seeing you guys on the next one, and preventative maintenance. It's important.